love of peace. The early Christians in Rome incorporated into their funerary art the image of a dove carrying an olive branch, often accompanied by the word peace. It seemed that they derived this image from the simile in the Gospels, combining it with the symbol of the olive branch, which had been used to represent peace by the Greeks and Romans. And Jesus, when he was baptized, went up straightway from the water. And lo, the heavens were opened up unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending as a dove and coming upon him.
We are displaying this unique Peace Sky exhibition launching from Atlanta's Olmsted-designed Piedmont Park, a legacy of the 1895 Cotton States Exposition. John Philip Sousa composed the King Cotton March for this august World's Fair, held approximately 100 years before Atlanta hosted the 100th Olympiad. Booker T. Washington's famous Atlanta Compromise speech was delivered at the Georgia Pavilion. The people of Pennsylvania sent their great Liberty Bell from Philadelphia, which they housed at the Pennsylvania Pavilion. Over 1 million people attended this fair, Atlanta's gesture of peace, reconciliation, and rebuilding after her destruction during the Civil War, the only American city to be burned to the ground. Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are, and henceforward shall be free, and upon this act sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution, upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God. The fall of the city of Atlanta in the Civil War assured the re-election of Abraham Lincoln, which otherwise would not have happened.
The Statue of Liberty Enlightening the World was a gift of friendship from the people of France to the United States and is recognized as a universal symbol of freedom and democracy. A broken shackle and chain lie at her feet as she walks forward, commemorating the recent national abolition of slavery.
Beloved community, the letter from a Birmingham jail was written in 1963 from a Birmingham jail cell after Dr. King and several other civil rights leaders were jailed after leading a Good Friday demonstration. Dr. King lifted up the nation of a beloved community which has been supported by many as important to the ultimate goal of love and justice. Dr. King spoke often of beloved community as a way of transforming people and relationships and creating communities grounded in reconciliation, friendship, and human dignity. Key principles include nonviolence as powerful expressions of courage, understanding, trust, and love.
Rodney Cook Sr. served in the Georgia House of Representatives and the Atlanta Board of Aldermen simultaneously for almost 20 years. In 1962,
there was a controversy over a barrier that was built on Peyton Road to stop minorities from moving any further on Peyton Road.
Cook made a speech at the Georgia State Capitol to take down the Peyton Wall. His words incited the KKK to burn a cross on the lawn of his home. Martin Luther King Sr., known as Daddy King, was a friend and early supporter of Cook.
Rodney Cook Sr. supported the dinner honoring Martin Luther King Jr. when he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Rodney Cook Sr. has a park and a highway that has been dedicated to him, and he and his family have for many, many years been one of the progressive voices of an ever-expanding and growing Atlanta.
Hi, I'm Aaron Young IV. Early in my grandfather's career, he took an interest in the philosophy of non-violence. He faced death threats because of his activism, but continued to advocate for human rights. Having successfully organized anti-segregation marches, he became the SCLC's executive director in 1964. During this tenure, he would serve jail time for engaging in civil rights protests throughout the South, including Selma, Alabama, and St. Augustine, Florida. But serving as the SCLC's executive led him to help draft the Civil Rights Act of 1964 the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. Together, these laws helped strike down Jim Crow in the South. His career is among the nation's most prominent, having become ambassador to the United Nations. Andrew Young was by Dr. King's side as he was struck down by an assassin bullets in 1968.
Beginning with the reference to the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared millions of slaves free in 1863, King said, 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. At the end of the speech, which most excited the listeners and now has become his most famous, King described his dreams of freedom and equality arising from a land of slavery and hatred.
I Have a Dream is a public speech that was delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28, 1963. In the speech, King called for civil and economic rights and an end to racism in the United States. Delivered to hundreds of thousands of civil rights supporters from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, the speech was a defining moment of the civil rights movement and among the most iconic speeches in American history.
John Meacham writes that, with a single phrase, King joined Jefferson and Lincoln in the ranks of men who've shaped modern America. The speech has been described as having a strong claim to be the greatest in the English language of all time.
Georgia's origins of diversity and peace can be connected to her English Enlightenment founding, when British General James Oglethorpe landed on the coast of Georgia, was greeted by Chief Tomochichi of the Creek Nation in peace. Chief Tomochichi is the only Native American granted the rank of king by the British monarchy and was received at court by King George II in London, 1734. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Ambassador Andrew Young have indicated that their ministries stand on the broad shoulders of Chief Tomochichi. Georgia's 300-year tradition of peace is spread around the world, and if Georgia were a nation, she would rank number 5 in the world for Nobel Peace Laureates. We declare the city of Atlanta to be the global city of peace.